Namaskar. Well friends, let me heartily welcome you all to my audio video podcast series on Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar. This series has 54 short speeches on Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, unraveling as many as 25 different dimensions of this multifaceted genius that Dr. Ambedkar was. Friends, this podcast series is focused on Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, his thoughts, his actions, his philosophy, and above all, his vision, his grand vision for the future of our country. That is what this podcast is all about. Friends, if you like this podcast series, like it, share it, and subscribe it. Let's get going. The focus of this episode, episode 2, is on Dr. Ambedkar, scholar par excellence. Dr. Ambedkar was truly a scholar par excellence. From childhood until his Mahaparinirvan, he did not stop his pursuit of knowledge. Dr. Ambedkar's quest for knowledge remained unfettered, although he was humiliated every step of the way. Bhim Ambedkar's school education started from Satara. In the government high school Satara, the years were 1900 to 1904, where he faced for the first time the pangs of untouchability. Young Bhim had to bring from home a gunny sack on which he would sit either outside the class or in a remote corner of the class. He could not get water to drink. If there was a peon, he would get water, but that also was poured into his hands by the peon from above. The day there was no peon, there was no water. When Bhim family moved to Mumbai, he entered the Elphinstone High School in Mumbai. The years were 1904 to 1907. There again, he was humiliated as an untouchable. He was not allowed to take Sanskrit as a subject. Instead, he had to take Farsi as a language. There is a famous incident about the blackboard. Once while in the class, the teacher invited Bhim to solve some problem on the blackboard. As Bhim approached the blackboard, all the students started shouting and yelling. Why? Because they thought that their bags containing their lunch, which were hanging behind the blackboard, they would be polluted. So he was not allowed to touch the blackboard because of the fear of polluting the food which was there in the backside of the blackboard. Bhim matriculated in the year 1907. He was the first untouchable to do so. And for that, he was felicitated by a social activist called Rao Bahadur Bole. And then there was a socialite, Principal Keluskar. He presented him biography of Gautam Buddha, which is a very unusual coincidence, because little did anybody know that in the later life, Dr. Ambedkar was going to play such an important role as far as Buddhism is concerned. And we'll come to that at a later stage. After high school, Bhim started his college education in Elphinstone College in Mumbai. There again, the caste discrimination continued. In the college canteen, he was never allowed to drink water, nor any tea was served to him in the college canteen. For Bhim college education, Principal Keluskar arranged a scholarship of 25 rupees per month from Maharaja of Baroda, Sayajirao Gaikwad. It was Bhimrao's father, Ramji Ambedkar, who was responsible for Bhimrao's love for books. In fact, his father used all his pension purchasing any book that Bhimrao was demanding. And then when his pension was over, he would go to his daughters, borrow money from them, or take their ornaments which he would keep as a collateral and raise some money to be able to buy the books. And when the next month's pension came, he got his daughter's ornaments released and returned. So much he did in terms of inculcating the reading habits in Bhimrao, which became his passion for all his life. At the time of examination, Father Ramji would wake up Bhima at 2 a.m. and would make him study in the light of a kerosene lamp until morning. They were staying in a very small apartment. There were 10 people and some cattle. And that was the environment where Bhima would spend his night studying in the kerosene light. In January 1913, Bhimrao got his BA degree from Bombay University. The subjects were economics and political science. Against all social and financial odds, Bhimrao became the first untouchable in India to get a college degree. Then, for his advanced studies, Bhimrao went abroad to Columbia University, United States. This is hard to believe, but here Principal Keluskar again came to help. He took Bhimrao to meet Maharaja of Baroda, Sayajirao Gaikwad, who was kind enough to grant a scholarship of 11.5 pounds per month for the period of 3 years for Bhimrao, so as to be able to study at Columbia University, United States. The condition was that after finishing his studies, Bhimrao was supposed to come back, and for 10 years he was supposed to work for the state of Baroda. Going to the land of Abraham Lincoln, Booker T. Washington, and Dr. William Du Bois was going to transform this young, bright, untouchable Bhimrao's life forever. But Bhimrao was different. He was unique in terms of the social background of untouchability. He was the first one among the untouchable to be able to go abroad for advanced studies. Life in the USA made a lot of change in Bhimrao's attitude. It was his first exposure to free world. He could breathe the freedom. Life now had a new purpose, new meaning. He was admitted for master's degree in Columbia University on 20th July 1913, and there in Columbia University he came under the influence of several great thinkers, which included philosopher John Dewey, anthropologist Goldweiser, economist John Edwin Seligman, and so on. Bhimrao was awarded MA degree in economics in June 1915. His thesis was the administration and finance of the East India Company. This was the subject of his thesis submitted for the master's degree. Within 2 years thereafter, Bhimrao completed his PhD in economics. The year was 1917, and for that he wrote a dissertation. Title was National Dividend of India a historical and analytical study. This was published much later as a book in 1925, and there was a change in title. That book is a very well-known book with the title The Evolution of Provincial Finances in British India. After finishing his studies at Columbia University in United States, Dr. Ambedkar looked forward to going to UK, to London School of Economics to study economics and also to get a barrister's degree. There were all kinds of administrative difficulties involved because his term, the term of his scholarship, was expiring in June 1916. With great difficulty, Dr. Ambedkar managed to get a one-year extension. It was up to June 1917. In the meantime, before getting an extension for his scholarship, virtually penniless but unstoppable Bhim Rao set out for London in May 1916. He was given a thorough check and frisking by the police authority in Liverpool, where his steamship had docked, because they had a suspicion that he was a part of the Revolutionary Army. From Liverpool to London, Bhim Rao went by train without ticket, and from the railway station in London, he went to the India House, the famous India House, in a cab. He had no money to pay, so he persuaded the secretary of the India House to pay for the cab, which secretary did pay. Luckily, 2 days later, he got letter of extension from the Maharaja of Sayajirao Gaikwad, giving him extension for 1 year. So in October 1916, Bhim Rao was admitted to London School of Economics and Political Science. In November 1917, Bhim Rao was admitted to Gray's Inn to study law. And he started working very hard on both economics as well as law. But the scholarship extension came to an end in June 1917. However, Bhim Rao Ambedkar applied for extension again, this time for 2 years. But with all the recommendation letters that he had, his request to the state of Baroda was sternly turned down, and utterly disturbed, Dr. Ambedkar sought, and he was sanctioned, a 4-year break in his studies with effect from October 1917 from both the institution, London School of Economics as well as the Gray's Inn. Demoralized and dejected, Dr. Ambedkar reached Mumbai on 21st August 1917. Nearly next 2 years were excruciatingly painful for Bhim Rao Ambedkar. There was a fiasco. He went to Baroda to work with the Maharaja Sayajirao Gaikwad, but he was not treated very well there. Actually, the Maharaja Sayajirao Gaikwad wanted to make Dr. Ambedkar his military secretary. But to begin with, he was given small jobs here and there there was a big fiasco because he would not find a place to stay. He managed somehow get a place to stay in a Parsi dharamshala. In that Parsi dharamshala, taking a false Parsi name. But within 24 hours, it was discovered that he was not a Parsi. So all the Parsi young men got together with the sticks and all and drove him out. Within the office also, nobody would talk to him. People Even his subordinates, his junior-most colleagues would not talk to him. They would throw files at him, at his table, because they were afraid of touching him. They had the fear of pollution by touching him. So Dr. Ambedkar was awfully dejected, frustrated, and he returned to Mumbai. And then in Mumbai, he did small jobs here and there and making a living to take care of his growing family. It was extremely tough for him to manage the household affairs without any substantial income. After a lot of struggle and frustration, finally he was appointed for 1 year as a professor of political economy in Sydenham College, Mumbai. And he worked there as the professor between November 1918 to March 1920. Strangely, here again, in the city of Mumbai, in the Sydenham College, he faced the pangs of untouchability. The water which was kept for all the faculty members, he was not allowed to touch that water because they were afraid that it would be polluted. So he was not allowed to drink the water from the pot reserved for the so-called upper caste colleagues. Still, he carried on. Finally, the ordeal came to an end, and on July 5th, 1920, before the 4-year limit was over, Dr. Ambedkar set out again for London with the personal saving of about 7,000 rupees, a friendly loan from a Parsi gentleman of rupees 5,000, and financial help from another visionary Maharaja, that was Rajarshi Shau Chhatrapati of Kolhapur. This time, Dr. Ambedkar resumed his studies in London in September 1920, and there was extreme hard work waiting for him. He was working very hard. He used to work 20 hours a day. He was the first one to reach the library and the last one to leave the library. One day, since he did not have even time or did not want to spend time eating his lunch, he had carried a very measly lunch with him, which he started eating in the library itself, in his sitting place. Promptly it was reported, the librarian called him, and the librarian gave him a penalty. The penalty was not to enter the library for 1 full week. Believe me, there couldn't have been a more severe punishment to Bhim Ambedkar. Bhim wept like a child. He said that do anything, give me any penalty, but do not keep me away from my books. So finally, the librarian relented and allowed him to continue his studies in the library. He had very little to eat in the evening. He would somehow manage. When he was advised by his friends, he had a roommate who was Indian. When he was advised to take rest, his answer was, no money, no food, no time, no sleep. That was his motto in life at that time, forced by the circumstances. So he was working something like 20 hours a day. In June 1921, he got MSc degree in economics for the dissertation that he wrote, Provincial Decentralization of Empirical Finance in India. Beginning of year 1922, Dr. Ambedkar submitted his dissertation for the highest degree of Doctor of Science in Economics at the London School of Economics, and the title of that dissertation was The Problem of Rupee. Dr. Ambedkar's quest for knowledge was still unsatiated. Without waiting for the results of his Doctor of Science degree, he decided to pursue further studies and he went to Germany. Can you imagine? He went to Germany, he studied German and French and started studying in Bonn University in Germany. In the meantime, on June 28, 1922, Dr. Ambedkar was called to the bar. In other words, he became a barrister. While in Germany, Dr. Ambedkar's supervisor in London informed him by telegram that his London examiners had refused to approve his dissertation for the degree of Doctor of Science. Dr. Ambedkar agreed to rewrite the dissertation without changing the final conclusion. So, running out of financial resources, Dr. Ambedkar very reluctantly came back to Mumbai. The date was 3rd April 1923. In the next few months, Dr. Ambedkar rewrote his dissertation and forwarded it to London in August 1923, and in November 1923, Dr. Ambedkar was informed by a telegram that he was awarded the highest degree of Doctor of Science in Economics by the London School of Economics. Dr. Ambedkar's Doctor of Science dissertation was published in the form of a book in the same year with the title, The Problem of the Rupee, Its Origin and Its Solution. This book is truly Dr. Ambedkar's magnum opus. Now, Bhim Ambedkar now had a PhD in economics from America. He had a Doctor of Science in economics from England and a barrister's degree from England again. So Dr. Ambedkar was now ready to address any problem in the realm of economics, sociology, political science and law. And that is exactly what he did. Well, friends, let's conclude today's session here. In the next 5 episodes, I'm going to talk about Dr. Ambedkar's 3 books on economics, some of his research papers, and a testimony that earned him worldwide reputation as an economist extraordinaire. We can stop here, friends. If you like this podcast series, please like it, share it, and subscribe it. Thank you. Dhanyavad. So long until we meet again. Namaskar.